What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be interviewing quite the legend from the XRP community today with Genfinity, and that is Mr. Bob Way. Bob, I'd love for you to be able to, start off with a little bit of an introduction. So if you can provide maybe a brief overview of yourself and your experience at Ripple, kind of first and foremost, that would be fantastic.
Well, hey, King Solomon. Great to be here. Not sure I should call you King or Solomon. King sounds like
Either is fine. You can call me Ryan, you can call me King, or you can call me Solomon. Everything works.
all right. All right, Solomon. But so yeah, I started at Ripple in 2013. I was actually hired sight unseen based on work I did in the forum, the Ripple forum there. It wasn't really work. I was learning Ripple at the time. So I had discovered Ripple in the Bitcoin Talk forum and met Joel Katz there at the time and moved over. He suggested, since I was asking questions that were annoying Bitcoiners, that I just move over into the Ripple forum and ask the questions there, which was really wise. So I did a lot of learning at the time in the Ripple forums. There were a lot of Canadians there, and they came from Ryan Fugger's Ripple Pay, now often called Classic Ripple Pay, and some of them before that in the local exchange trading communities that existed prior to that. And so they were the ones that actually taught me a lot about rippling, the actual concept that Ripple is based on.
Okay.
And so I became the #1 rippling advocate, at the company. It was my job to teach everybody what rippling actually was in there.
Yeah.
And then, we had some pivot and everybody forgot. When we moved to the banking thing, people started focusing on banking. And I'm like, yeah, but banking is rippling. Like, oh, no, the Nostro accounts, like it's rippling. You got to understand. So anyway, I used to do in the early days, because I've talked to bankers, I would talk to, let's be condescending. I would talk to legitimate people about about the crypto space, but people are always asking, it's like, okay, so tell me about this cryptocurrency or this blockchain technology. And I would say, well, it's like, well, I can kind of tilt my head to the left and tell you about all these mystical crypto properties and concepts, or I can sort of tilt my head to the right and teach you its boring ass bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And people go, what? Because really nobody took bookkeeping in college,
Yeah.
So it's literally bookkeeping. It's keeping track of stuff, but nobody in blockchain or cryptocurrency will ever talk about it like that.
And I believe you left Ripple, I want to say it was 2018. And more recently onboarding into, so back in the Xrpl and onboarding into Xspectar as Chief Product Officer. I'm always interested to hear, I know I interviewed Dirk, who is the CEO of Xspectar, probably a month or two ago, and he told me a little bit of the story, but can you kind of touch base on the unique value proposition that you saw in working with Xspectar that led you into onboarding and taking the role?
Yeah, sure. So I have to, do a weird Ripple transition here.
Sure.
Because what I was actually doing when I met Dirk was came back on Twitter again, after 2 years of being off Twitter. And I was really trying to do a project with my son called Seeking Alice. You see any of those tweets that I
think I do remember initially seeing those when you did come back, because I think you came back like 6 to 8 months ago, somewhere around that time.
It was actually past November, because I went to New Orleans for the Interledger Summit to see, mostly just to see Stefan. And there were a bunch of other Ripple people there and legitimate people, and Adrian and his team, Finn Boss from South Africa, the Tiger Beetle guys, amazing work they're doing. So anyway, I got hooked up with them. NA from GateHub tweeted one picture, which was so ironic to me, because in the picture There's NA from GateHub, who I think of as a pretty important person in the community. There's Stephen Thomas in the middle, who literally started the Interledger Foundation, right? He's there. And then there's me on the side. And the comments on Twitter were all Bob, Bob, Bob. It was ridiculous. So it was like, okay, I guess I have to come say hi to the people, because they didn't forget me after 2 years. But I couldn't, I'm like, why are you not saying NA, or Stefan, why me?
I think a lot of us still remember. I mean, I know you did an interview with Alex Cobb, but back I want to say that was 2018, if I remember, maybe very early 2019 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That was when I came back. So that was me remembering the old days of going into the early Ripple forums and just talking with people. And I'm like, I just want to do that. I just want to go in the forums and talk to people who know about Ripple and figure out what I can do to help, build the community. I have a whole rant about that. You can ask me about building community later, but engaging with people and teaching people and letting them understand what this is, what I really is like, how can I help do that? And so that blew up, because of course nobody believed I worked at Ripple. Everybody believed I was a scammer or something at first. And then I did the interview with Alex Cobb. I did another one with Brad of XRP Vegas fame.
Oh yeah.
And those were all good. But at the time, so few people were using the XRPL as money that it was like discouraging, because nobody even wanted to talk about using it as money. There was only Visa. And so, a lot of people were talking about getting rich holding it. But I'm like, but it's money. You have
it should be used, right?
You have to spend it to make it money. So anyway, when I came back into the forum, my son finally got interested in cryptocurrency. Like all the time I'm working at Ripple, no one cares. But finally my daughter is now like big into NFTs and Web3 and crypto. And my son's like, oh, I should learn this. So I'm like, okay, we could do a program. I thought maybe a YouTube channel just about how money works. And so Seeking Alice was the name I chose actually at the Interledger Summit, because I'm Bob. And I'm literally the person Alice sends money to. That was my shtick in 2010, right? Yeah. And so, but when you look in crypto, what's everybody really doing? They're looking for the person that's going to send them money, right? They are literally seeking Alice. Nobody gets in crypto for a faster and easier way to spend the money they make in their day job, right?
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time you heard that pitch?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, no, that's not why people aren't crypto. They're in crypto to receive more money. And so my view is you receive more money by creating something of value and selling it to other people, right? Yeah. And so what I wanted to do was say, how do we do that? Let me talk about how we do that with the XRP ledger. And there used to be literally nothing that of value you could buy, because nobody was integrated with it for a long time. After Ripple's pivot to banks, all of the companies that were integrated that were selling stuff kind of quit. Yeah. And so then along came NFTs, and NFTs became the thing you could buy with crypto. And that's true on Ethereum, that's true on XRPL, that's true on everything. It's like the role NFTs sell is to be a digital good that you can interchange instantly with crypto. It's the thing that you can do. You can't make the boat from China go faster, because your money from the US to China goes faster, right? Your goods don't arrive any faster because you use crypto. But with NFTs, you can go really, really fast. But to me, most of the well, I get shouted down from the internet for saying this, but most of the NFT ecosystem everywhere in blockchain is sort of placeholder digital goods. That's what the talk about tokenization and everything else is about. It's like, yeah, we created these NFTs so we can actually practice what we preach. We have to buy and sell these things. But really, is there long-term value in the, a GIF image that somebody created a week ago?
Yeah.
The one of 10,000 out of 10,000 of 10,000 collections. He's like, really? They're almost tchotchkes. They're things that you can collect and put on the shelf, and they're awesome. We need to have something to buy and sell. So anyway, now the Xspectar, right? So originally I went, wow, Metaverse, who cares? Let's be pessimistic, right? You're probably too young to remember this, just looking at your face, but there was a movie called Lawnmower Man with Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I remember Lawnmower Man.
That was, I think, 1992. That was the first mainstream movie about virtual reality. First that I remembered.
Yeah.
There.
I know it was like I remember it was like a horror movie to an extent, correct? Like it goes wrong. Yeah. And
it's there. I watched it again. It's actually doesn't suck. It's actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
For 80s weird sci-fi. But the amazing thing that stuck in my head only afterwards, that was before Mozilla. That was before the World Wide Web existed. So we've been saying virtual reality and speculating on what virtual reality is going to be since before the web. Snow Crash was 1994. That was like at the beginning of the web. People weren't even using the internet at the time.
Yeah, Neil Stephenson, and I know he actually coined the term Metaverse, and that was a long time ago. A lot of people don't even realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Neuromancer was even before that, right? And so nobody was using the internet. So the question with the Metaverse for me is always like, why now? We've been making pitch decks, and that slide always comes up. It's like, why now? Since 1992, we've been talking about this Metaverse thing, and now Facebook's bet the entire company on this, right? They literally renamed themselves and said, this is the future in the Metaverse. What is it they see that no one else sees? And so really what I looked at this and said, okay, so I'm doing Seeking Alice. How do we teach people about money? How to empower yourself over your money by earning it, really, right? Produce some good that you can earn money from. Well, what's that going to be? I talked to a lot of people. They're like, oh, we have some creators over here. We have people there. Maybe we could do some digital internet kind of things. Nothing super gelled, right? And so as I'm thinking about the Metaverse, I'm thinking, oh, well, the Metaverse is really a new environment where everything is digital. Like your avatars are digital, your clothing is digital, your buildings that you're in, the furniture, all of that are just objects that are fully virtual digital objects that could be sold against money.
Yep.
So I wasn't really thinking about NFTs with the T, it's a non-fungible token. I'm really thinking about it's digital goods. And the token is just the pointer to the thing that you will actually use in the Metaverse, right? It's a ray gun. If you're old as me, and sci-fi had ray guns, then it had lasers, then it had other stuff. But it's then blasters and lightsabers. But anyway, it's one of those. That's the actual digital good that you can build in the Metaverse. And if you're talented, you can do that anywhere, right? There's no difference from doing it in Pittsburgh to doing it, in Texas, to doing it in India or Brazil or Turkey or whatever. If you have a talent and you can make these digital goods, you have a worldwide market where you could sell them in exchange for money. Now, notice I'm not stressing for XRP or this.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care. You want money, and then you want to take the money and you want to cash it out to fiat because you want to pay your rent and you want to quit your shitty job, right? That's what people want. They want the money, and you go, what kind of money? The kind where I quit my shitty job money.
So I think I know that your views, even the word metaverse, like, and I was, before this, maybe I think I interrupted you before, like kind of what brought you into Xspectar. So I mean, I think the digital economy aspects and like
Yeah.
goods are very interesting.
It was the thing that you can use the XRP ledger for me. Because if you look at XRP ledger isn't about XRP. And it's the thing that makes it so much different from all of the other crypto systems. And you really have to be a crypto geek to understand the difference. And I feel like condescending saying it because there's a lot of crypto geeks. But the primary data structure in the XRP ledger is the account root entry. It's the address, the thing that your address points to. But that represents you. That represents a person, right? So
Yeah.
the people are the first class entities on the XRPL, not the money. The money is secondary. So money on XRPL are trust lines or XRPL itself, which is an entry in your account root, right? The account root is the primary thing. Whereas on Bitcoin, it's different. In Bitcoin, the primary data structure are transactions, and the money are outputs of the transactions, and transactions consume inputs and they produce outputs, and there aren't accounts. The money is owned by whoever has the code that can authenticate and authorize the next transaction.
Yeah.
And so you can think of that as money first, people second, whereas the XRP ledger is people first, money second. And it really makes all the difference in the world when you're building a metaverse, because the metaverse has to be people first, money second.
Yeah.
And so what do you need in a metaverse? You need people, you need money so you can buy things, and you need the things that you can buy, the ownership, right? And so the XRP ledger provides all of that. It provides the identity, it provides the money through trust lines or XRP, and it provides trust lines, in this case, Xspectar tokens. Let's plug those. Xspectar tokens, good, buy more Xspectar tokens. That's the first time I've ever plugged a token on any interview anyway, right? I don't give people advice on stuff like this, but you money, and then now on the XRP ledger with NFTs, they represent ownership of things, and they can just as easily represent ownership of 3D models with code that function in the metaverse on there. And then you have the DEX, which is how do I sell things in exchange for money, is built in, right? No smart contracts needed.
Yeah.
It's just already there. And payments, that's what everybody should be most concerned with. How do I make money if I do a service? Like, I'm your tour guide, I take you over here, you send me money for doing this. If I want to buy a ticket to your show, a ticket is a digital good. You give me money, we trade it, we have the DEX. So when I looked at that, I said, oh, the metaverse is the thing. It's the reason people are going to come to the XRP ledger to use it for money, right? And what other use cases is broad as that, right? So, I've said with somebody else, it's a big shiny thing to attract people to the XRP ledger. And that's sort of really it, right? You come into here to say, what can I do? But it's not about the shininess. It's about how we empower you. It's like, what can you make that's a digital good that you could sell? And the thing I'm really most concerned about attracting, and I just look at everything upside down. You are here. We are on YouTube, right? Somewhere, not yet, but
not yet. Soon.
real soon now. We're on YouTube. But YouTube wasn't really built for me to be doing this, for me to be being interviewed. It wasn't really built for you to get paid for doing it.
Sure.
Right. And I don't know if you get paid from YouTube for doing it, but I know YouTube
very little recently.
Yeah. And I know YouTube makes that as hard as possible to pay you.
Yeah.
But people don't come to YouTube for the stuff Google does, right?
Yeah.
People come to YouTube for the stuff you do. And so it seems oddly asymmetric, right? Why are you both making Google valuable and begging for them to reward you? That doesn't seem right. So the fundamental view of the Xspectar verse is you should be able to go there and create value and people pay you directly. And we beg for money, you know, the people who created the metaverse, right? Fundamentally, it's about you. And so what I'm trying to attract are, well, first you specifically, King Solomon. I would love if you would come to the metaverse when we're ready and do a show, be entertaining, attract your audience to the metaverse, and be rewarded for doing so. Right? I want it to be a first-class platform. Now, I don't know if that's doing video interviews or walking around as an avatar, or maybe you juggle flaming chainsaws. You know, I don't really care what you do as long as people find it entertaining and you attract an audience and they reward you for doing it. So I think, like, there are people that have YouTube channels on YouTube and people who are Instagram influencers and people who stream their gaming on Twitch. Those are the people who are the attractions for all of these platforms. There's going to be those people who come to the metaverse and go, oh, I totally get this. I want to be the first, you know, guy who attracts a lot of people and they reward me, you know, and we don't even have a name for it. You know, what is it? Or, you know, you're an entertainer in the metaverse of some level. You're building your audience, but it could be you're doing news there somehow. You're gathering your people here.
Yeah, I really like your phraseology. Like, I was looking through LinkedIn a little bit and through Twitter, and I know under role description under LinkedIn, you very definitively do not say the word metaverse, which I found interesting. What you do say is multi-user internet, and then putting two and two together with kind of the thought process, you put out an interesting tweet like maybe a week or two ago. And what you state, I'll read the tweet itself, and then maybe I'll expand with a question. But the tweet says, Steve Jobs also gave us the mouse, but at the same time took away the arrow keys so people would learn to use the mouse effectively. And then you go on to say, with the metaverse, if I give you a money or a monetary system, but I take away user tracking and targeted advertising, do we fundamentally change the internet? So the question that I would have, it alludes to the belief that the metaverse isn't just countless projects launching metaverse silos, but literally the next iteration of the internet itself. And so I want to maybe to expand around that thought. Do you think, you know, when you talk metaverse, and I think you've talked about this before, you're not just talking about the Xspectarverse and this one thing. You're literally talking about changing the way that we fundamentally use the internet today.
Exactly. And it's clear as day in my head and not in anybody else's head. But fundamentally, we are, let's take it one bit at a time. We are rebuilding the World Wide Web like the World Wide Web is built. So if you had to look at the World Wide Web and talk about its main characteristics, well, there's a web browser, right? Whether it's Chrome or Safari or whatever you use. And there are websites, which they all serve a protocol, HTTP here and HTML, and then there's JavaScript, and then there's all sorts of other cruft on there. But fundamentally, there's a website and there's a web browser. You own the web browser. It runs on your computer. You should have complete and total control of how the World Wide Web looks to you.
Yeah.
Now, people don't think you should anymore. They really would like the web to behave more like broadcast TV behaved, right? Where somebody else puts pictures on your screen and you have zero control over that. That's how a lot of people think it should be. But the early web was different. The early web, you could put your own style sheet and you go like, no, I want my text bigger. I want these links red instead of blue because I can't find them. And, you know, I want to turn off all this crappy ad because it's crappy ads.
Yeah.
And you could do that because it was your computer, right? It should be empowering. And so in our metaverse, it's built on the same structure. You have a browser, but it's a 3D browser. It's a for browsing 3D worlds. And you have servers, which are 3D servers where people build experiences. An experience is what I call a virtual space. So instead of a page being the unit that we go to on the internet that's addressed by a URL, you go to a space where a space is a place for multiple people to gather and be with each other. That's what's fundamentally different, right? If I give you a URL and I say, go to this web page, and I go to the web page, you won't see me there.
No.
Right? The World Wide Web is fundamentally single player. It's a single user experience. And if you follow all of the changes in the web, from there, you'll realize that's why we have giant platforms. Every time you have a multi-user experience, you need a giant platform to coordinate this, because the web doesn't do that automatically.
Yeah. Twitter Spaces. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there has to be, and so they've created these platforms that a lot of people don't like. A lot of people in the Web3 space actually abhor these giant platforms and what they do to you. So that's problem one.
And isn't it a little bit ironic that we talk about the word Web3 and we talk about crypto and mass adoption, and yet everybody's on Twitter, which is it's a platform, it's the platform, the huge platform aspects, but it's a very traditional Web 2 platform that's just huge. And there's advertisements and all this other stuff that, and the cookies generate what we see. So I just always find it ironic that we're always like, everything on Twitter Space is all about crypto, but you're literally doing it on Twitter.
Yeah. And the one thing I find super ironic about that is most of the people doing it on Twitter and talking about Web3 aren't even using the web. They're using the Twitter app on their phone, right? So it's like not even the web.
Yeah.
It turns out on the Mac, the actual browser experience is better than the app for the Mac on there. I have to keep switching back to the browser. So at least I'm using Twitter on the web.
Yeah, I use browser on the Mac, and you can't. Keep going.
Yeah, it's all there. So that was flaw one in the web. Is it's a single user experience. There's no way to bond as humans. And if you trace the history from 1993, 94, when the web started, to now, you'll see it move from just browsing for content, research papers, to communication, where people are doing emails and little chat rooms and things, to this sort of collaboration where we wanted to work together more, to this kind of thing where you're now producing content on this, and you have users where you really have a dynamic interaction. You're engaging people here on there. And in order to make that work, it just moved everybody to these platforms. The second flaw, there's no money on the web, right? As I've told people, there's an error code 402, which means payment required, but nobody ever invented how to pay. And there is some web monetization stuff. Adrian Hope Bailey and the Interledger people and worked on that, but it's still like a work in progress 30 years later. Is like, how do we pay people just using web tools? So money on the internet is really Visa, MasterCard, right? American Express. That's how money is on the internet, but that's not a part of the web at all.
Yeah.
That's another set of platforms that people have to use if they want to get paid. Now, the alternative to that are the other platforms, right? Patreon, Substack. You ever Substack, right?
I've heard of Substack. I don't use Substack. I use Patreon, and you alluded to some of the fees and stuff like that occur it's very money first, people second from the platform standpoint. I mean, depending on what level of Patreon you have, they take up to 15% of people's income. You know what I mean?
And like, why does Patreon exist? Because money's hard, and credit card money, the plastic card money, is asymmetric. So boy, I'm using geeky terms now. No, it's fundamentally asymmetric. Plastic cards take money from you and give it to merchants.
Yep.
They don't take money from merchants and give it to you. They don't take it from you and give it to somebody else. That's a one-way flow of money. And so you want to receive money, you have two options. You could become a merchant and you can, get a merchant account, or you can sign up with Square and you can do that. You can convince people to swipe their credit card on your website, or you can sign up with Patreon and let them do all of that work, take a big cut and give you some of the money. And so that's why we have the big problems. That's why we have Amazon, right? Amazon was the place you gave your credit card to, so you didn't have to give it to every website on the internet.
Yeah.
And so those are the two flaws that we're fixing with Xspectar. The Xspectar, grounded on that, is multi-user experience where you want to be engaged and you want to empower each person, and money. And the 3D environment is the attraction. Everybody's, using 3D gaming and things now. People are moving. Humans are fundamentally 3D creatures. You want to be, I like looking at you in this like flat 2D rectangle, but I'd rather be sitting around a table having a beer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would much rather, after we're done with this interview, go, oh man, let me take you to this place down the street. Let's just go. But we can't do that because we're on Zoom and Zoom doesn't lead anywhere.
No, it does not. Because now I've got to take, the user flow is crazy, like that we're still doing this, and that the fact that, defragmenting a lot of these platforms is, I think, going to be a big part of the way that the metaverse operates efficiently over time. Like, I'm going to end this interview at some point in time, and I'm going to download the interview on my computer, and then I'm going to upload the interview on another platform, which is YouTube, and then I'm going to share the interview on Twitter, and then it's like all of these like crazy like little fragmentation steps that we take just to interact, just to get knowledge and stuff like that out there to people. So it's still pretty crazy if you think about it.
It seems just kind of weird when you actually break it down and think about it. So what we're doing is the idea of going back to the beginning of the web and doing it again. Like, it's fundamentally, I want to give you a new web browser, because I think the web browser that you're using right now, and I don't even know which one it is, but I can make this blanket statement. It's user hostile, right? Yeah. It will track your behavior and report to third parties, and you have to add on, you add on plugins and extensions and features to block what somebody else thinks are their features and value add, right?
Yeah.
And you're fighting against the web. And that was the statement about, if I give you money. So like, if from the beginning, do this mental exercise. If from the beginning we were able to just send money on the web to whoever created a website, you go, love your website, here's $5, keep doing it, right? Would we have Patreon?
I mean, I can't imagine why you would. I mean, because then it,
Yeah.
And then you naturally kind of, attract and support people that are builders. So like, if you have that experience like occur very naturally, and somebody's putting out great content or great research, or they're very entertaining, those people naturally are going to succeed,
Yeah.
and other people are naturally going to support them. And it's like it's a gigantic feedback loop without the fragmentation.
Yeah. And it just, I looked at that and I'm like, if the internet had money from the beginning, it would evolve in a completely different direction. Because you wouldn't have Substack, the thing the reporters use. It's a mailing list. It's an email mailing list. Well, MailChimp has been around for decades, right? As sending out bulk emailing to your subscribers. What's Substack? Substack is MailChimp plus money. And if you look at all these new platforms, you will see there something boring that's been done for 20 years plus money. That's the trend.
There's the value add. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, the next generation of the internet should fix the money thing first. So you can both send money and receive money equally as fluid. And if you do that, you fundamentally change the nature of the internet. You fundamentally change the reason for giant platforms to exist, the reason for, Amazon to exist, the reason, and you remove the incentive for all of the malicious stuff that goes on, the tracking your behavior, the manipulating things, the, behind the scenes influence. There's a lot of people that call themselves influencers now, but I don't, it's a very interesting word, influencer, because if you're very overt about it, you go, I'm here to influence you into buying this. Like, you're literally saying somebody's giving me money and they're trying to get me to get you to do this, right? And if you call yourself an influencer, I think that's super straightforward. But the stuff that I don't like is like the covert behind the scenes. Like, we're paying you, you're giving a really good review, but you're not telling anybody you're an influencer.
Sure.
You're literally manipulating people and the world, or that's bad. At this level,
I always like the getting paid in the token, and then talking to people about buying the token, but you've just gotten paid in it and you're selling it to get money to pay your bills, and you're telling people to buy what you're selling like on top of them. I always think that that's a really interesting dynamic that occurs.
It's sort of ridiculous that way, but if you look at it, it's everybody's out they're seeking Alice. They're trying to find somebody to send them money. And what I don't like is people manipulating me. I want to know I'm having a straight conversation with people. And so I won't do my rant, but I have a whole rant about money and power and secrecy.
No, that's, I would love to hear the rant at some point in time, but I wanted to ask you, because you talk about kind of rejigging the internet in a way that makes sense, that obviously incorporates money, but puts people first, which is a value proposition that the XRP ledger enables. So I guess my question would be, a little bit around interoperability in this kind of new iteration of the web, or AKA the metaverse. So how does, and you touched on it already with the XRPL, maybe if you could touch on it from the Xspectar token standpoint, and how that fits into your vision for a multi-user internet, but then also with interoperability, how do other assets and other ecosystems play into what you guys are building?
So let's talk about interoperability first as a concept.
Sure.
So the World Wide Web, you would consider interoperable, right? Because you can go with your same browser to any other website. So we're building the Xspectarverse exactly the same way. Your browser can go to anybody else's website. Now, who's allowed to build a website? Well, anyone. There's no gatekeepers to who can build a website, right? The software is usually open source. You buy it, you pay for hosting, you set up a server, you run a website. Good for you. And anybody can go there. The world is flat. The Xspectarverse is flat like that. We're giving out the server. You put a building, you put your experience on it, you build your interiors, you make it a game if you wanted a game, you make it a zombie killing experience if you want a zombie killing experience. It's just like having your own websites. And we think businesses will want to have their own 3D website, essentially, right? Their own 3D experience, for the same reason they have their own 2D experience with the website. They want to engage the people. It's a business. Let's be honest. They want to engage the people they're trying to take money from. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Plain and simple. That's what you want. And this 3D environments are going to be very engaging. So we think everybody's going to build in that part. So if you're doing that, if you're building your 3D experience here, just as if in the 90s you were building your website, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about, what is the experience? What does it look like? How does it feel? How do I engage with the users? What are you not thinking about? Money, blockchain, the other stuff, right? You're thinking about the new shiny things.
Yeah.
So the unfair advantage we're keeping for ourselves at Xspectar is both the browser and the server are directly integrated with the Xrpl and as a money system.
Yeah.
And so on the Xrpl as money is the Xspectar token. And so if we price everything in there, we're really using the marketplace, but it's using the DEX under the scene.
Yeah.
But if we make the default price for all digital goods in Xspectar tokens, then we create a market where people are trading their US dollars or their euros or their yen, or they're bringing money in from their day jobs and they're buying other things, or they're receiving money in Xspectar tokens and they're selling them so they can quit their day job, right?
Yeah.
The one constant I've noticed when you talk to people about this whole metaverse concept and being there is no one wants a shit job in the metaverse, right? No.
Yeah.
You're going to be the store clerk. You're going to stand here for 8 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
You're like, nope, we want AI for that. We don't like, nobody wants that job, just like nobody really wants that job in the real world. It's just valuable in the real world. Maybe it's going to be valuable in the metaverse. It's really hard to know, right? It could be a super, high opportunity for someone somewhere in the world. They go, oh, you want me to stand here virtually while I sit in my chair at home and on my computer, and I'm going to make minimum wage in the US. I'm going to make $15 an hour, and I'm going to spend it here somewhere in India or China. You just like, people are like, sign me up. I will sit in the chair and greet people. I will be the Walmart greeter. I'll just do it here from Indonesia, right?
I think, I mean, I would love to ask you, Bob, because, you're talking about user experience and kind of, what's going to be occurring within kind of this new iteration of the internet as well. And one of the questions that I had was, how much, obviously at the beginning, it's kind of a loaded question at the beginning here, but how much will Xspectar play a role in developing the fundamental and foundation of user experience in what you guys are building, which is, it's a kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it's a very straightforward answer to the question. Obviously, we're building it.
A lot.
But the question then for me becomes, at what point do users start creating their own experiences on top of what you've already built and leveraging that infrastructure in unique and interesting ways that you guys probably aren't even thinking about some of the stuff that they're going to be building at some point in time.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as I can make it humanly possible, we want to allow that in. Yeah. And the browser server model really does make that possible. So what I'm working on right now, my focus is building this core facility to test out some things that I don't think anybody else in the world is really thinking about. People see multiplayer games, right? Yeah. And a lot of people do that. They play Fortnite, they play Call of Duty, they play this. But you go in the environment where you're playing Call of Duty, say, everybody around you is in the fight, right? That's why you're there. That's what you're doing. But the real world is really different than that. Just because you're in the same place. For example, say you're in a restaurant, right? And Texas, we have pretty big open restaurants. There's lots of tables you can see, right? You're in you're sitting at a table with 6 people together. There's 12 other tables in the restaurant. So, you're in a room of 200 people, but you're not engaged with 200 people. You're not all fighting bad guys as a team, right? You're engaged with your 6 people in a room of other people. And maybe you want to look over to go, oh, there's my friend over there. I want to go join their group. So there's this social interaction that we all do in the real world that really doesn't happen on the internet yet. What if we're in the same place and we're a group? What's our social dynamics that work with groups? And so that's what I'm experimenting with, because if I get that right, it's engaging. Otherwise, if you get it wrong, it's dorky people jumping up and down in front of you wherever you walk. And you're like, yeah.
Oh God, I've seen this before. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, no, that's not what I want. It's important key features. And this is, I say this and it's funny. Nobody pushes back on this. because I think it's a deep-seated feature that everybody wants, and it runs counter to the narrative we hear. But a feature I want from the metaverse is delete. I want, if there's somebody being really annoying, I want to do the equivalent of Twitter mute. It's like, I don't want to see you, but I want to just erase you from my view of the space. Like, you can still be walking around the same area, but I'm not going to bump into you. You're not going to distract me, because, you know, my experience is better without that person in it.
Yep.
And that's what I mean about empowerment. It's literally an experience that's running on your computer. It should be beholden to you. It shouldn't be beholden to me because I'm the creator of Xspectar, right?
Yeah.
And I control how you experience the world. That's just messed up. It's literally you and should be running on your world. So back to the actual experiences, I want to give the key behaviors to say, this is what makes the world the world. You can meet up with your friends. If you're walking through your friends, you know, say you're with 6 friends and you're walking through and you go up to a building and there's a doorway. Well, doorways are like web links, where you're going through the doorway to another server. Well, if you're walking with 6 people, when you go through the door, all 6 of you end up in the same destination together.
Yep.
And it doesn't screw up. You don't go, oh, I went through and he got lost somewhere. You know, it's you know how that goes with the web. Like, well, I'll go meet up here. And you're like, where is this guy? Now I've got to SMS him, you know, on my phone to figure out why he's not. It's like, no, we all go as a group. You know, we have delete of things we don't like. Maybe we have rewind of shit that we're like, wow, what the hell just happened? I want to rewind and play forward. And then beyond that, we give people the tools to say, oh, you want to create a bowling alley? Awesome. That's some extra movements or activities that you could do.
Yeah.
You know, it's essentially a game inside the metaverse, but that doesn't make the metaverse a game.
Yep.
You know, just like the fact that we watch the basketball finals on TV, but that doesn't make the world a basketball game. It's just.
So, I mean, for me, I really like your thoughts around needing to kind of build something out that allows for programmability and user experience down where it's not rhetoric and it's not here's a marketing ploy, or it's not X, Y, and Z. It's literally user experience down to the individual user. Your metaverse can look in a way that you want your metaverse to look. You can build what you want to build within the metaverse, without, for lack of a better way of saying it, you know what I mean? It puts down the metaverse experience. Obviously there's some infrastructure aspects there, but it puts the metaverse, the new internet experience in the hands of the user, without having to, and God, I'm sure you saw a couple of years ago how many trailers there were for metaverses that were coming out. It was like, and I know you guys are building on Unreal Engine 5 as well, so I should also mention that, but they were like 60-second Unreal Engine 5 trailers, but then you like actually experience it and it's like you're buying a land, but it's like a dot on a page. And it's like, it's like, congratulations, you're a landowner. Yeah.
And it's crazy. You know, the idea is there. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tricky to engage people.
Yeah.
But the key to that is attracting very creative people to the experience. And I was just having this discussion with somebody else before. It's really hard to see it from where people have been born now. Like, the problem with young people is they don't remember stuff from before they were born. You know, that's a feature of old people.
Yeah.
So like, there is a World Wide Web now, and it's ubiquitous, and everybody knows what it is, and everybody uses it, and every computer comes with a browser on it. But there was a time when you had to deliberately download a browser to go to the web. That was a fact. People were like, whoa, why do I want to download this stupid application? I see, you know, that was the thing. And before that, there was a fully functional thing that looks a lot like an internet. They called it America Online.
Yep.
There was the Source, and there was Prodigy. There were all of these online services where you could chat to people, you could do all these things. They had fancy user interfaces on that were much better than the web. And they're all gone now, and the web exists. Why? Well, the web was empowering. The web let regular people, they didn't have to beg America Online to create their own room. They didn't have to, first you buy this. People were compelled. People were compelled to write websites about stuff they wanted to write about. And to do that, they had to learn how to format HTML. Nobody wanted to learn how to format HTML. They wanted to make a website.
Yeah.
And so, but we do live in a world where people want to build 3D experiences. They want to work on the next huge game. They want to work on the next huge Marvel movie. And they have training and learning, and they're just compelled to use these techniques and technologies. And those are the people I want to attract first here and take all of the reins off of them. I want mayhem. I want people, as clever as I try to be, I want people defacing stuff in a hilariously funny way, because that's fun, right?
Yeah.
That's making it better. And I want to allow those people in early, because those are the people that are really going to make the next web the next web.
I think the next question here really does have a lot of synergy with what you were literally just saying. So you look at kind of the way that a lot of projects are releasing what they're calling a metaverse, and it's like, well, there's so many different metaverses, and obviously we've learned today that you guys don't feel like you're building the Xspectar metaverse. You're literally revamping the entire internet itself and the metaverse for everybody. You're kind of fundamentally changing the way that the internet works. So, in terms of the way that a lot of projects are token gating or NFT gating, what they would consider the metaverse, I would love your thoughts around gating user access, because I'm sure you have some really interesting ones. But the one thing that I do want to ask is, if you're not going to gate anything, because you want everybody to come into the new iteration of the internet, what unique experiences will there be for people that are participating already in the Xspectar ecosystem, whether it be NFTs or token or land or whatever that may be? Like, what is your vision to allow people in, but to also create unique experiences?
So it really is, what token gating is a really interesting term for something that really already exists, which is a ticket, right? If I go to a concert, first you buy a ticket, then you go to the concert and you spend the ticket, you use the ticket to go in. And if we implement that with a token, then it's a token gate. Sounds all, really, but we'll have tickets and they will be NFTs. So essentially they will be token gated. But the idea is, so picture the metaverse, the first place you show up is what we're calling our train station. So the metaphor is, you just got off a train, the door opens, you're in the train station. Then you walk out into the town square, where you're surrounded by buildings and experiences. And the goal is to have you walk to where there's people, because the metaverse is about people. It's not about the game or the shooting or the fancy graphics. It's about the people. So I want to walk you to where the people are so you can meet the people. And then surrounding the town square are buildings, which are experiences and activities with doorways that you can go in. And so rather than thinking of it as one big flat 3D modeled metaverse, like Decentraland, where you're walking in and out of buildings and it's just one flat plane of existence, you walk through a door and that takes you to another website, basically, to another experience. And that might be rendered as the inside of a building, right? So when you go into a store, the real world's separated into outsides and insides. And when you go inside, the rules of places change, right?
Yeah.
And we're used to that. That's not strange at all. But with the web 2, the existing web, we're just used to the way it works. And so I'm trying to make this new version of the web, this metaversey version, follow the rules of the real world. Like when we walk around, we carry money. When we want things, we pay for them. When you want to make money, you produce value. Those are not, oh my God, the boy just reinvented the world. Like, no, I'm just throwing away the weird stuff that we did since 1994, where we said, oh, you don't pay for anything, but advertisers manipulate you into buying shit when you're not looking.
Oh God, yeah.
So, you know, I'm just changing it there. So you will go in and some experience will be open. Going into the shop is an open experience, right? Like going into the 7-Eleven. Taking stuff off the shelf and leaving with it, that's not an open experience.
Yeah.
That's a token gated experience.
Yep.
Right. And we can actually enforce that in ways that you can't in the real world. We can say, right now, all the stuff belongs to the store. And when you go back through the door, you can't take it with you.
Yeah.
Because you don't own it. But if you transfer it, you know, the NFT to yourself, then it passes through doorways. And, you know, we're recreating the sensible part of the real world there. So all of that is just going to be baked in from the beginning. And an NFT is really just a type of ticket that you already own. And it's a persistent ticket. It's like a membership card. And so if somebody who, you know, created your NFTs wants to create an experience for you in the metaverse, or somebody else wants to honor you as owners and part of these communities, they'll just check your membership card basically against the system. And
I think it's a really interesting aspect as well when you think about what are some of the things that are going to be happening in the metaverse or in, you know, the new iteration of the internet. And there's going to be new experiences, certainly, but a lot of those experiences are going to be the same things that we do right now, just in more interactive ways. You know, like you walk into a store and you see an item. Who's to say it's just a digital representation? You could have it be phygital, where if you want this, you know, you get it drop shipped to your house if you walk out of the store, you know, and you have the digital representation that you could use in whatever way you want to use it in the metaverse. So I think it's pretty interesting.
Somebody came to me and I actually, they were literally making 3D printed models. And like, oh, people will buy this and then we'll ship them one. I'm like, yeah, but what about people with 3D printers? Why don't you just sell them the plan? They print it themselves. Save yourself the shipping costs.
Yeah.
You buy it here, you have one in the metaverse, you got one there too. You know, there's all these other ideas. There's value to be created. To me, the metaverse is an opportunity for people to create value in new ways. That's what I mean when I say it's empowering.
Yeah.
And it actually solves all of the problems that people talk about, that I'm not a big fan of the current jargon about diversity and inclusion and equity. I don't think anybody's solving the problem. If you want something to be completely inclusive, you've got to remove discrimination. And discrimination is literally the ability to tell something apart from something else, right?
Yeah.
Like, say, I can discriminate between a dog and a cat. That means I can tell them apart, and I'm going to behave different because one's a dog and one's a cat. Now, if you go in the metaverse, you get to choose your own avatar. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be from whatever country you want to be. You literally, nobody will by default be able to tell if you're a kind of person they don't like.
So I mean, it's an additional aspect of, when we talk about leveling the playing field, I mean, you essentially can operate however you want to operate, you know, in the next iteration, you know, the metaverse, the way it's shaken out. So you're literally like, there's no other way of describing it. Like, you're literally leveling the playing field. Like, that's
exactly,
everybody's on the same, you know, at the same stance, you know.
And so that's what I want to do. It just feels like it can be done. And it feels like, to me, I work in tech. Once something can be done, it eventually will be done. There's just so many geeks that just have to do this. And now that I know it can be done, I know it will be done. And I just want to be the person that does it.
I know that you guys are trying to cultivate that talent and bring some of those geeks in and inspire some people to build. I think if I remember correctly, I think you guys are doing a $25,000 come in and build something type aspect. I don't know if that's through Blender or what that's through right now, but
it's through VR Division, which is a group that we work with. They built the community hall art gallery in the space for us. They also teach classes. They also have video things on there. And so, yeah, we want people to come in and show us what they can do. And the idea is maybe we can sell those as to other people who need buildings. A lot of people bought land, they don't know how to build. They go,
Yeah.
well, if you don't know how to build, well, you could buy what this guy built for you. Let's start creating the economy already. And so that's what's going on there. Some amazing pictures coming out of that so far. I can't wait to see how it turns out. But it's sort of this attracting, recruiting thing for people. And to me, the metaverse is just the next generation of these 3D things that we're doing now, plus multi-user experiences, plus money, right? And there's a lot of technology that computers didn't used to have for rendering these 3D worlds. I used to tell people tongue in cheek, those GPUs that everybody uses for crypto mining, they're also really good for graphics.
Yeah. What do they use? They use the NVIDIA cards, or I forget what stuff they use.
Using video, they're like, they do a lot of math really fast. And they go, and they make really pretty pictures. It's like you might already have all the tech you need to have a really awesome, 3D modeled experience.
I mean, I wanted to ask just a couple more things, Bob, real quick, because I know we've been running for quite some time here. But in terms of timeframes regarding, such a loaded question again. In terms of timeframes regarding mass adoption of digital assets, the metaverse, how far along in the journey do you think that we are? And then, as a follow-up, I can't think of anybody else better to ask them this. So, how far are we in that journey? Which aspects of mass adoption do you think are going to occur first, as far as like wide user base of using some aspect of crypto, whether it's stable coins or CBDCs going live, payments, settlements? Would just love to pick your brain on that a little bit.
So, for what we're doing, it's still early. We're trying to get it to the point where we can get people in here. But there's a lot of decisions that have to be made when we're figuring these things out. And I actually live in the US, which I think of as a huge handicap. In this particular space. I really wish I lived in Cyprus or some other place.
Singapore, Dubai, anywhere.
Someplace that's crypto friendly. I really wish I lived there, but I live here. So one thing is I don't want to get arrested. And so in the metaverse, what I want is people to come in and first, I want it to be engaging when you're humans. I want it to be a place you want to spend time with your friends. I want it to be a place where you can meet new friends. And I want it to be a place where, say we did this show in the metaverse, then immediately after this, we'd just walk out and be hanging with the people that were like the studio audience. We would continue the conversation of what we're doing here with other people, and it would be way more engaging, right? Because they would have insights we had never thought of, and they would have these ideas. That's what I want that to be. And as people start to think, oh, this is very valuable, I could do this and I could charge for it, or I could have a concert and I could charge for it. Payments are going to be really important. The moving money, not the hodling money, right? The actual, I'm using it as money. And then we have to say, well, what is the money that we're using, right? If I had my druthers, if I could just pick, I would do what the Xrpl is good at and let everybody use the fiat they want to use, and use the built-in DEX with XRP as a bridge currency. And you would say, I want, 100 yuan for this. And we go, cool. I don't know what that is, but my wallet tells me it's, $5. Done. Boop. You get your yuan. But as soon as we do that, crazy shit happens. And it gets almost impossible to do, because we call the money yuan and we call the money dollars. And if we call the money dollars, then suddenly everybody wants me to know everybody who's using dollars. Like, who's your customer, and did you KYC them, and why are they doing this, and how much money did you give them, did you report all of their taxes, it's like,
What state do you live in? Do you have a money transmitter license? Yeah.
it's like it becomes impossible. But you know what's oddly possible? In-game currency.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's some interesting concepts that are out in the world. One is prepaid access, which is debit cards. Like when you buy a gift card from a restaurant, that's called prepaid access.
Yep.
And it's in dollars. And now we've, for 10 years, nobody knew whether those were going to be legal or illegal. It was like this test. They're like, yeah, we're just waiting to see. We're not going to pass any regulations, but we're not going to slap you down yet. And after 10 years, they kind of went, no one seems to be totally abusing them. So we think with this rules, we'll call them legal now. You're like, gee, thanks. 10 years after we're creating value, you decide it's okay. The world works weird that way. So what I'm doing with my part of the metaverse is Xspectar tokens are in-game currency. That's what I want people to think of them as. They happen to be in-game currency issued and operated on the XRP ledger. But if people pass them around in the metaverse, I think that's just awesome. Now, if people want to take them out of the metaverse and trade them for XRP, awesome. You want to trade them for fiat, awesome. You want to trade them for Ether or whatever, awesome. But that's not part of my metaverse, right? That's part of maybe our underlying platform. That's part of the Xrpl as money platform. That's a lot of people are working in crypto on those particular jobs and roles. I want to involve them in our metaverse project, so I don't have to do all of that. I don't have to get all of those licenses.
Yeah,
I want this to be a community project. It's not a closed, gate-kept ecosystem, right? We want people using the Xrpl as money broadly, and we want other businesses to make money doing that, right? We need exchanges or gateways to move fiat in and out in every country.
Yeah.
What am I saying? They have to beg me to do that? No, they don't even have to ask me.
I like the there's a comedian out there, and by the way, I love the insight, because there's a lot of other builders that are focused on very specific things that can certainly be integrated, I'm sure, into a multitude of aspects of Xspectar. And it's like, why not just take what they've done and integrate it, instead of putting the time, effort to build something like that on our own when it makes sense? Like Mitch Hedberg is a comedian. He's like, he gets asked by like this one person. He's like, oh man, you make a great steak. You can cook. And then it's like, can you farm? And he's like, no, just because I cook doesn't mean I can farm. I really appreciate the answer though, Bob. And I think there's always opportunity for synergy and other builders to kind of start integrating with these projects. And I know a lot of the time we hear the word interoperability, and like I think some of that is utilizing aspects of what other people are building in ways that make sense for what you guys are even probably building. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I want to use NA's Gate Hub for fiat. I want there to be 200 different gateways for the 200-ish fiats around the world. And, if NA gets rich, awesome. But that provides the money in, the money out that we need to make the metaverse work, which provides, what fees we're selling first-party goods and services in the metaverse too. We may sell furniture, we may sell clothes, we may sell those things. Other people are welcome to sell those also in the metaverse, along with activities and other experiences and things. And we're going to be receiving Xspectar tokens for those, and then selling Xspectar tokens to people that want to come in the metaverse and buy things, because we need fiat in dollars and euros and things to pay our bills. It's an economy where we need to use all of these other gateways and exchanges and things, and the entire ecosystem. We're building on the Sum wallet because it exists. It's great, and people already trust it. It manages identity. So to me, it was the Seeking Alice project was, how do I bring the whole ecosystem together? And so that there's synergies. So everybody is the network for money, the XRPL, is just better with everybody participating together.
Yep.
And that's what we mean about community. When everybody talks about community, really, community in crypto means these are the people that think the digital thing, whether it's a token or a non-fungible token or cryptocurrency, this is the group of people that believe along with me that this thing is valuable, that has some value.
Yeah.
And the more people we can create in the community that thinks my thing is valuable, the more utility it has, because the more people I can trade it to.
Yep.
And when you glue all those together on top of the XRPL, what we're doing is building a single community that thinks of the XRP ledger as their money and ownership system. Regardless of who's issuing the NFTs, who's, what money they're selling them for, the XRPL is the money system. And the more people we include on that, the more utility the whole thing has. So, everybody's building their little niche communities, and I'm trying to bring them all out onto the XRPL with this idea that payments are things between everybody. And by doing that, we're gluing all of these communities together. It's not just the artist's little community. That's a subset of the people on the XRPL who use it for money community. And as we grow that, the sky's the limit. That's the rising tide that lifts all of the boats. That's if you're an XRP fan, that's the demand for XRP. If you're an Xspectar token fan, that's a demand for Xspectar tokens. If you're issuing NFTs, that's more demand for your NFTs. If you're giving your NFTs value in the metaverse, it's more people that want those features. That's the community I'm trying to build, is people who think of the XRP ledger as a money system. I think, somebody tried to make it sound like I was calling the XRP ledger money, as in a token. It is the money system, as if, like the US, we have a banking system that is most of the money. The actual paper notes are very, very little of the money, but we denominate money in US dollars, but it really doesn't exist in a lot of cases. So anyway, the system of how the money moves is really important. And cumulatively, it's cumulative value. So, some people might use a lot of yuan. I would love to have that on the XRPL. Some people might use a lot of dollars. Some people might use a lot of euros. Some people will use a lot of XRP. Some people will use issued tokens. All of that is cumulative value that people use through this. And anyway, that's what excited me. That was that winding all the way back to the beginning.
Well, no, I really appreciate it, Bob. I know normally I do these and they're like 20 minutes and nobody really has a lot to say after a 20-minute interview or a 30-minute interview, but it's been a pleasure. And this is the first interview time I've ever been able to, sit down and actually talk to you. So I wanted to ask a little bit, some broad questions and stuff like that as well. I know that we got through a lot, certainly excited to see what you guys are building. Not only through Xspectar, but kind of the new iteration of the internet itself. I'm really kind of excited to see that stuff starting to come to fruition and being released. And like you asked me and you said, I would love for you to come and participate. I will 100% participate and do a show or whatever whatever's going on. I'll try to be there and test it out whenever it comes out.
It's super interesting to even think of what you would do in the space. And I know you need to get in there and walk around to see it. But, once you start kicking the ideas in your head and you think of, you're doing what you're doing now, you're building an audience, you're talking to people, you're providing information. But what if you could just make it more interactive? What if people could be around? How would that change? And I don't know all the answers, but I know some people are going to hit on really great ideas.
I mean, I almost envision when you're walking through like a busy town square and somebody buys a microphone from an e-commerce shop in the Xspectarverse, and instead of just walking through the square, they can literally, like, maybe they have a one-time use of the microphone, they can turn the microphone on and literally just start orating for all the other people out there, and maybe doing some sort of a show, and you could have like tipping aspects and all sorts of like really cool stuff where it's like a virtual experience, just like you would experience if you're on vacation somewhere and you're walking through, and there's all sorts of like cool stuff going on and acts going on and everything else. So I think I'm really excited to see what you guys put out, and yeah, just testing it out as well.
I'm super excited about people coming in and building fancy experiences, but really I'm just as excited about people coming in and being buskers. It's like, I want to bring Johnny Sax. Like, I want to just come in here, bring my saxophone and my avatar, and I want to play on the street, and I want to have people throw money in a saxophone case. That would be awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? One of the things that I thought would be super weird and twisted, you know, because you lean into the virtualness and you go, where can we go with this? Like street magicians, those guys are always entertaining, right? But what is a street magician in the metaverse? Can you imagine the weird ass shit that you could pull off?
I mean, I always think that like we're going to see people that are already, like, if you're a fitness guru, we're going to have somebody teaching fitness classes, and it's going to be ticketed, and there's going to be aspects of that. If you are good at guitar and you want to teach guitar lessons and everybody wants to sign up for a guitar lesson, you know, like there's so many different types of things that you can use, where like right now people are doing these things in real life anyways, but their audience is a little bit limited.
Yeah,
It's going to explode the audience for people that have talents and that can do things. And if you don't have talents, you're going to be inspired to start learning things and to participate in the digital economy. So
that's
yeah,
what I really hope. And I really hope to make it simpler. You know, I hope that people like you don't have to go, well, first I have to go on YouTube, and first I buy a bunch of cameras and stuff, right? Because YouTube doesn't even give you cameras, right? They should give you something for bringing all these people on. You know, I have to go on here, I have to figure that. Then I have to try to get monetized and see if they give me any money. Then I have to go to Patreon and set up a whole nother account. Then I have to convince my audience to leave what I'm doing right here to go across the Patreon to give me money. You're like,
it's all over the place.
This is like crazy. And we think of that as normal. That only seems normal because everybody's doing it every day. As soon as there's a better way, it will just seem absurd.
100%. I mean, it's going to be game over. I mean, for a lot of like the platform stuff that is currently occurring, because it is, well, I would argue that right now it's just as fragmented as a lot of crypto and crypto communities are. So as soon as there's something better where you don't have to go to 40 different Discords to keep track of projects and 30 different Telegrams and go to somebody's Twitter account, and it's all over the place. As soon as there's a solution that works and you bring in the community there, I'm pretty sure it's game over, Bob. So I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are as an individual. I'm going to get this interview out as well. I'm sure this won't be the last one we're doing. I think you're coming into a space we're doing next week as well, surrounding privacy and some other aspects, which I know is
that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
So
we really cut out anything dumb I said.
Oh no, I don't think you said, you definitely didn't say anything dumb, but my laptop is 100% at like 4% too. So I know it was such a pleasure and an honor meeting you, honestly. And kudos to all the work with Xspectar, and really excited to see everything as it comes out. So really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this. And it's great to see you face to face. Hopefully we'll be in a room sometime, or in the metaverse sometime.
100%, Bob. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a good day.